Yo, welcome everyone. Today I'll be taking you through some of my ranked hits and teaching you how to master this new Hydra backpack double growth army. I've been loving it lately, doing pretty well in ranked, and I've learned quite a bit in the past week during my Legends 1 hits. Alright, so the overall premise of this army is to essentially take out air defenses and sweepers with your giant arrow from the Queen and the Dragon Duke's backpack ability. Alright, so in this first base, the entry was kind of, you could either go north or south. So I decided to start Town Hall side because I can overgrowth that Revenge Tower Rage section, and I want to deal with the heroes and Longshot Logger quite early with my raged up dragons and Eternal Tome ability. Like, you gotta think about where will you get the most amount of value with each ability, and using the Healing Tome and Eternal Tome on the north side just wouldn't have been as effective. So I deploy the dragons first so that they can clear those storages before that, and unfortunately some ice golems come out, but that's not much of an issue. Not the greatest minion prince ability, but that's fine. And now I overgrowth that entire section before the rage activates, and then I'll overgrowth it again after the rage activates. I take care of that monolith and Inferno Tower on the left with the freeze and totem, just so that those dragons can take care of that. And you want to start the attack as quickly as possible after the Duke and Queen ability, because as you can see, my Duke's still alive, and that's just extremely helpful because he'll go to Phoenix, and then the Phoenix will help out, and then you can revive him. He'll be alone. It's so great having the Duke stay alive for the entire attack. Yeah, this one is kind of close, unfortunately. Perhaps a north entry would have been better, but I'm not sure. It was just a really bad minion principality. Ending on the Revenge Tower, you always want to make sure you have some spells saved, and unfortunately I don't. I really didn't think this would triple, but it ended up working out in my favor. Yeah. So the double overgrowth really does have a lot of value, just because that rage would have activated again by now, and it wouldn't have been a triple. I wait for the Phoenix to die just so that the Duke has that passive, and I use that last totem, and this one gets close on time, but it was a triple nonetheless. Okay, next hit, it is essentially the exact same principle that I follow, although I end up not getting the arrow and backpack as I end up not getting as much value with those things, but it's a very spell oriented army, if that makes sense. Like, depending on how well you use your spells, that's almost the difference between tripling and not. I again enter Town Hall side, but the idea here was to get at least one air defense with the backpack, and then shoot the Queen arrow to get the bottom two air defenses and that sweeper. Yeah, so the Queen arrow just misses both of them, but I still commit to my initial entry instead of trying to come up with something and letting the Queen die. I deploy my dragons first again, and slowly my dragon riders, and the CC comes out. That's fine, it's not the biggest issue. Long shot, use a totem, and yeah, I wait with the Healing Tome and Eternal Tome for as long as I can without having most of the dragons die. They're splitting a bit. I should have used the freeze to tank for the monolith, but that's fine. And I had a really great minion principality there, so that was super helpful. Again, same principle, overgrowth the rage section. I often look at where we'll get the most amount of overgrowth value with this army, because you have two of them and the dragons are quite slow, and that's exactly why this double overgrowth works so well is because the dragons die quite easily from all of the side damage, and this eliminates a lot of that throughout the attack. And yeah, this one's a much cleaner triple than the previous. Okay, next hit. So I've hit a lot of bases similar to this, so I tried something a bit different here. It's pretty obvious what you would do. You would use the queen and duke on two of the corners to take out the air defenses. But deciding which entry to go in is quite important. I decided not to go straight into the town hall in case I missed the arrow, because you might not get both of the air defenses. So I decided rather to enter from the side of this base, and it paid off quite well. So Duke gets rid of the sweeper, which was nice, and then I wanted to place queen there, but instead opted to place at the top side, so she can survive a bit longer, and then enter from the side, again with dragons, just so that the dragon riders don't go ahead of the rest of the army too quickly, and get out of that ability. So I freeze the monolith and a sweeper. The dragons are split quite a bit, but they're supporting the queen there. And yeah, just Eternal Tome there with a rage to deal with the heroes, and Minion Prince to deal with that, mostly to deal with the, the long range tower and the fire spitter. The ice golem stayed alive for quite some time. That's the real benefit of getting all the air defenses, is because that ice golem tends to die in a prime position. And yeah, you want to save as much spells as possible if you are planning to overgrowth something like the Revenge Tower, because that thing will fry your army, especially if you don't have much of an army left. But here it turned out really well. They split in a nice way towards the end of the attack to deal with everything quite efficiently. And we end up getting a very overwhelming triple here. Alright, next base, same principle, but I don't enter from tunnel side because of the sweepers that will be hitting me, and the queen and duke will die super quickly. So I send duke to the right side, mostly because of that monolith there. It'll kill the duke very quickly. I'd rather have the queen die than the duke too early on, but the duke dies quite early on anyways. Here I should have spread the dragons out more efficiently so that they can converge by the Revenge Tower in a more linear fashion, but it still ended up working fine. I freeze the monolith there and rage them up just so that they can... Those are quite long range defenses, so I wanted them to get there as quickly as possible and get together so that I can use the healing and Eternal Tome. That center rage pops, and then I overgrowth a section of it because those troops are already dealing with it, and I have a lot of dragons on the right side, so it's not going to fry my entire army. And yeah, my duke died. I still have my Minion Prince ability, which will be excellent to use. That's the thing about using the Meteor Staff instead of the Dark Crown, is that they're not great with dealing with enemy heroes and the Guardian, so you definitely want to save quite a bit of spells to deal with them, otherwise the attack will just be cooked. Then yeah, I overgrowth the fire spitter because the scatter and inferno is much closer to the army, and it just would be easier to totem that. yeah, and that's another triple. All right, I absolutely love seeing these bases because they're just so easy for this army. And you definitely want to enter opposite town hall side. But yeah, so send Duke on that side, Queen on the opposite. She misses that other air defense, but yeah, I placed the dragons a bit closer to the Queen, as mentioned, for the passive of the Duke and so that she survives a bit longer. What's great about this strategy and this kind of base is that it's amazing to have an initial funnel. That's why I always use the rage quite early on, because that's when all my troops are together and it helps with the eternal and healing tome. They move quicker, so therefore they just get more value. And then they split, but that's actually a really good thing for these kind of bases because they deal with the side compartments better. Instead, if they were in a tight funnel, that would just be terrible because the long-ranged defenses would have just picked them off one by one. Again, that air defense was quite annoying that I didn't get with the arrow. Minion Prince ability there just to deal with the heroes, and once the overgrowth wears off, it's just, yeah, it's GG. Alright, so this next base is a bit more tricky because of the invis tower, and the air defenses aren't lined up very well for me to get both with the giant backpack. So instead I opt to... There's also only one sweeper facing town hall side, so I'd rather have the troops split from the town hall and converge later on. Again, like, where's the most overgrowth value? It would be by that monolith section. So that's what I want to overgrowth. So I use the backpack to get an air defense and trigger the invis tower, and the Queen to get one of the sweepers and air defenses. And yeah, just send my dragons straight into the town hall side. They can deal with all of the heroes, and the Guardian, raging them up with that is super helpful. The Queen unfortunately died, but the Duke is still healthy. This passive isn't that important. He's a great tank as well for other dragons. It's not like he needs to always be alone or anything. As you can see, he's adding so much survivability to those dragons at the top side there. And yeah, here they're splitting, but as you know, that you want them to split towards the back end of the base. And yeah, there's this little base left, and I still have a lot of troops, so I want to deal with that Inferno tower. That was a bad totem at the bottom there. But my Duke is still alive. I still have a revive and 2 spells, and it's really just the monolith that I'm somewhat worried about. And yeah, this will be the last attack of today's video, and I hope you learned something. Thanks for watching.